So welcome back, users of the internet. I was able to solve a little problem that I was having that a lot of people I see are having across YouTube and on forums. And it is the classic solenoid clicking sound. As you hear, only the solenoid is clicking and the engine will not fire. So today we're going to go ahead and fix that. So let's get it done. So in researching this particular problem, it can normally be one of three things, which I have backup parts for. It could be the starter, the solenoid, or the battery. The tools we'll be using to complete this job will be a socket wrench, 8mm socket, 10mm socket, screwdriver, and a multimeter. We'll be measuring the current from the battery to the solenoid and from the solenoid to the starter. So the first step in this procedure I want to do is make sure my battery is getting good voltage. I'm going to take my multimeter and I'm going to set it to DC, which this is the symbol for DC, and we're going to measure at the 20 mark here. Alright, we're going to let it zero out. And take our prods, positive to positive, negative to negative, and I am getting 12.7 reading on my battery, so that means it's pretty good. So the next step is to test that my voltage is coming from my battery and reaching the solenoid. So I'm going to take my negative connection and connect it to my battery, and the positive and connect it to the positive part of the solenoid, and I should get the same reading here. And as you see, it dropped just a little bit, but 12.65, that will work. Now to test if the voltage is coming all the way through on the other side or the negative side of the solenoid is a little bit trickier, because you have to turn the ignition and attempt to start up the bike while holding the prods in place. So as you can see, I have a alligator clip connected to the negative part of the battery to help me out, and then I have this prod in my hand. So what I'm going to do here is hold the positive prod to the negative connection on the solenoid and attempt to start up the engine while I'm doing so. And I should get a reading of 11.8. So that tells me that power is completing the circuit. So with that, I'm going to confirm that the solenoid is good. So my troubleshooting has led me to believe that the problem is probably lying in the starter. A lot of things can go wrong with them. Seals can bust and oil can get in the starter, which will cause it to go bad. Age in general, normally you need to replace them about once every 3 years. So we're going to go ahead and disconnect the starter and see what we have. This calls for an 8mm socket. And once we have our bolts out, we are simply going to pull the starter back with just a little wiggle, and she comes out. So the starter's not totally free yet. We still need to disconnect it at the solenoid. And now she's totally free. So as I mentioned earlier, oil can get in these, and a fair amount of oil came out of mine when I removed it. It has two seals, one on the outside and you have an inside ring. A lot of times the inside ring goes bad and oil will seep into it. Now if you want to test the starter and see if it'll run separately, I'm going to send 12 volts directly to the starter to see if she'll spin. I have the positive connected to the end of the positive cable terminal on the starter, and I'm going to put the negative. You just need to ground it actually on the body of the starter. So and that shows that the starter is still working as far as the motor is. But let's put the new one on and see if we can get the bike to start. That's the real test. Now at this angle you can see the actual hole that the starter will be going to, and you see the gear that the splines on the top of the starter will have to connect to. So in installing the starter, you want to be very, very careful because you don't want to break any of those splines. But you want to wiggle it in, and you want to put it in straight and not at an angle. So let's see if we can do that. Alright, once you have it lined up, you want to be very careful that it is all the way lined up. You'll wiggle it, and then you'll see that she seats. And how you know is your holes are lined up and the starter lays flush against its mounting holes. And now we'll put our screws back in. And again, this is 8mm. Gonna get those hand tight. And next we need to connect the other end of the starter to the solenoid. So here we want to take the positive end of the starter and connect it to our solenoid. Put our protective caps on. And put the solenoid back in place. With the starter in place, I did want to mention that I am fully aware that for my 171cc engine that I should have a high torque starter, but I purchased this one off of Amazon for $20 because again, I didn't know if this was the problem or not. So I wasn't willing to invest $75 to $100 on a high torque starter at this time. But let's see if she'll start. Turn the key. And she's turning over. So the problem was the starter. Alright. And this video is just to confirm that she is back up and running. I truly hope this video helps out there in the scooter and motorcycle community. If it did help you, please don't forget to comment, like, and you might even want to subscribe. Alright guys, I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Peace out.